Okay, here's our second layer, which is W2, which we plotted and cut. One thing we're going to have to do is this edge right here and this edge right here. I'm going to go ahead and cut an angle to kind of make a rock face texture. So let's go ahead and cut those. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to angle these down a little bit, kind of like that, and I'll just angle this back just a little bit more, and we'll do a little rock texture into the front of it. Okay, to do a simple little rock texture, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of cut some grooves in here, some vertical grooves a little bit. So you can, and also you can just kind of, I almost cut a groove and then pull it out. So we're just gonna cut a little bit like this, left and right, and it doesn't have to be neat. It's just going to be rough rock. Okay, so we've got just some vertical grooves like that, and this is kind of pulled. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go across this way with several. We're going to lean the knife this way, then we're going to lean the knife that way. And we're just going to do some fine cuts. And then we're going to do some fine cuts going up the other way, like that. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to rake our knife across and kind of pull a little bit, so some of those layers come out, just like that. Okay? Okay, at this point we've got W2 and then we've got W3 on top of here. What I'm going to do next is go ahead and glue these two together, and then we're going to go ahead and put the rock foundation using the rubble blocks all the way around the outside. So I'm going to get my glue here, and let's put this over on the back, and we'll put a good bead of glue on this, so this will glue together. And this foam insulation really doesn't breathe very well, so the glue is probably going to take a while to dry between these two. So what I do is I get these in position and get them pretty close to where you think they're going to be, stacked on top of each other. And I've got some straight pins. These kind of you can get in a sewing department. That they're probably almost 2 inches long. Yeah, they're probably 1.5 inches at least. What you want to do is take those and jam them in at different angles on the inside. I wouldn't stick them on the outside like this because we're going to be putting stones on the outside. So somewhere in the middle here, what you can do is you can just kind of angle one in kind of at an angle like that as far as it'll go, and then put another one in maybe at an angle like that for that side. And then we'll put another one over here at an angle, and we'll put another one over here at an angle. Now if you look at our plan for W3, what we're going to do is we're going to do the rocks around the top, and then we're going to do the layer underneath. Now I've got all the stones sort of laid out around where they're supposed to go here. Now one of the things that's a problem with this particular pink foam that I have, this is 1/2 inch foam, but it's not 1/2 inch foam. In other words, this is about 1/16 of an inch thicker than 1/2 inch foam, and that's going to give me a problem. The only way I can solve this problem is if I move these stones up to the top surface of the level and leave a gap underneath them. Now the good thing about Aleene's tacky glue is it's thick, so it will actually sort of stick the blocks in place. So you can put a little bit of glue on it, take this block and kind of wiggle it around, and then shove it in and kind of leave it suspended in the air, and it will pretty much stay there. Now we'll have to check it occasionally to make sure it kind of stays up to that height. But that's kind of the good thing about the glue here. So I'm going to take another block, same thing. Don't use too much glue or the thing's going to slide down. You want just enough to stick this thing on. So I'm going to push it, and I'm going to wiggle this block and squeeze out the extra glue, and it'll pretty much stay right up there flush with the top. Now as you're doing this, just occasionally make sure the stones go all the way back up to the surface. If you've got like a spare foam block here, what you can do is set that over top and then just kind of push down and make sure those stones are actually going all the way up to the top surface. Okay, I've got this first row all the way around, and it's pretty much all flush to the top. Like I said, occasionally go back and just kind of check and feel to make sure nothing is slid down. Make sure it's all flush with the top. Then we got the second row to go under it, but at least with the second row only being on the front and 2 blocks on the side, we can almost just sort of stand this up this way and go ahead and glue the blocks on here. Now if you can see, I've got, at least 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit more underneath of here. But that's going to be okay because we're going to have water under here, at least 1/4 inch of water. So that will help us out. It doesn't really matter that the stones don't line up that far. Now that all the blocks are in place, we need to add 2 sets of steps. Steps going up to the front porch and steps going up to the side door. So there's a side door kind of right about here, and then the front steps, of course, center, probably right about here. Let's go ahead and start with the side steps over here. Now if we look at where the side door is, I want you to notice that there was 1.5 inch block we had glued on the side of the foundation. Right here's one edge of it, right there is another edge of it. That 1.5 inch long block is what we're going to center these stairs under. So we're going to take 2 little 1/2 inch squares, just like that, center them on that 1.5 inch block. Then we're going to glue down a sandblasted 1 inch and another sandblasted 1 inch on top of that. Now the side rails for these front steps are going to be very simple. Basically we have 1 each of these going, one left and one right of these particular ones. We're going to do them so the stone texture faces out. We're going to glue one right there and the other one stone texture facing out, going right over here. And then we're going to finish up with a couple of these tiny triangles of the rubble stone block. One of them is going to be glued right here, and the other one is going to be glued right here. Okay, the front steps are pretty simple as well. Find the front porch, and there's 2 of the 2 inch wide blocks, and there's a gap between where the 2 blocks meet. That's going to be the center of our stairs. So take a 1/2 inch square and 1/2 inch square block, and center the crack between them to be equal with the crack between those 2 blocks on the back. Then we're going to take 2 of the sandblasted blocks, put them up front. Then we're going to take a couple of 3/4 inch long blocks. We're going to put them back to back, and we're going to take these back to back blocks and we're going to set one on one side right here. Then we're going to take another couple of 3/4 inch blocks and we're going to put them back to back. And we're going to set them over on the other side right here. Then we'll take a couple of 1/2 inch blocks. We're going to put them back to back. We're going to set them right here and we glue them together. And we're going to take 2 more 1/2 inch blocks and we're going to set these back to back right here. Then the final step is we're going to take 4 of these wide sloped blocks here and we're just going to glue them across the front to form sort of a flat stone rail at the top. So glue those in place there and our front step will be finished.